Hi, I'm Philip Howard from HGS Properties, and we're here today with Qandor at our site in Hanwell, the Perfume Factory.
Hi there, I'm Oliver Lowrie, Director at Ackroyd Lowrie. We are the architects and interior designers for the Perfume Factory, which is a 9-unit development in Hanwell for HGS developers.
So this deal came to us really by chance. We were actually looking at another deal very, very close by. We had a meeting with the owner one afternoon, and it was just after that meeting, the guy who actually introduced that particular opportunity to us said that he was working on another deal. Would we want to take a look at it? It was a much smaller site, so we came over here pretty much straight away. It was only literally up the road from here. Had a look at the site, saw the potential, had a meeting with the owners that same afternoon. It was very, very straightforward. They had a fixed price in mind, which they wanted to achieve. They weren't really interested in, what we could do with the site. I could see the potential. So we just went away, did a quick planning review, and literally agreed a price within a week following that meeting. It's probably one of the most straightforward deals I've ever done, actually.
I met Phil through Qandor, and this was a project that he'd been talking about. We actually didn't do the planning. We were brought in. Once he got the consent, he was looking to optimize the design, tailor it for kind of young professional market, and increase the value of every one of those units. So our brief really was to come in and kind of examine the plans that had gained consent, and within the envelope that was consented, look at areas where we could improve the design, improve the quality of space, improve the quality of light, and most of all, actually increase the net saleable area. So we were able to do that, and across the 9 units, we were able to basically provide an additional 70 square meters of net saleable area for the developers, which is equivalent to having basically another flat in the scheme in terms of the square meters that they are able to sell. But as well as that, because we do the architecture and the interiors, we can really work back from the type of purchaser that we're trying to target and look for specs that will work for them. And particularly as this has been built through the pandemic, kind of making sure that we understand how these flats are going to be used in terms of the outdoor space, areas where people can work. So really trying to get a kind of balanced flat in terms of the new way that people are going to live. First
Challenge was the fact that it was an active employment site, so taking it from employment to residential, and we did that via a permitted development route initially. I think that was the first challenge. The next sort of challenge is really, there was a big gap in between from planning and then funding, etc. But then following that, it was really the construction side. Because it's such a tight site, digging the basement out, doing the groundworks was particularly challenging. We were fortunate enough to get this building here, which has a separate access arrangement, and that has helped us enormously. So the challenge once a scheme is consented is that we're limited in terms of what the external envelope is going to allow us to do. So I think we actually did do a series of small amendments using Section 73 and non-material amendments, where we felt there was an opportunity to kind of increase daylight into a room or better align some of the spaces. So we did do that, but the main constraint was that we couldn't really make the building higher or wider. So that sort of the challenge was to try and make these spaces as bespoke and interesting as possible, but we've got this kind of envelope which we can't change. So the groundworks, demolition took place April time, so we've been working really, we had piling May, June. So from there, it's to get to the stage which you've seen this morning, which is pretty much a almost completed basement. It's taken us since really July to get to that stage. We were looking in this location and other similar locations, primarily because of the price point here. The fact that you are predominantly in the Help to Buy range. In fact, nearly all of the units that we're going to be selling will be in the Help to Buy range. Also, Crossrail as well was another important factor. But a demographic would be, I suppose, young professional people, first-time buyers, because of the Help to Buy range, and the fact that you can, through Crossrail, get into town pretty quickly. You're close to Ealing as well, but a different price point, a better value point here. So the units, we've got nine units in total, 4 1-beds, 3 large 2-beds, 2 of which are going to be duplex units, and then we've got 2 2-bedroom penthouses.
So it's a bit of a 3D jigsaw puzzle. It's a very tight site. It's down a beautiful little mews. And so, the massing of the building, so it's 9 units, but you wouldn't really feel that. The front elevation is a kind of series of townhouse scale kind of facades broken up as much as possible. Once you go into the communal entrance, we were keen to bring in light. We've sort of opened this right up. So we've got natural light coming down. We've got natural materials. We've got kind of cobblestones leading you from the mews. We're actually continuing those cobbles inside. And then once you're in the flats, it's a sort of luxurious feel. So we've got kind of concrete worktops. We've got really nice textured tiling to the bathrooms and the kitchens, and bringing as much daylight as possible into the scheme. And all of the units have got their own private amenity space. And we've got the challenge here is that the units all kind of interlock, and we've actually got a basement as well. So 2 of the units have got duplexes at ground floor going down into the basement. So when it came to actually building it and sequencing it, I think that's where the real challenge has been, is that we've got a site where we're basically digging out almost the whole of it and trying to work around it, which is why we are filming in the warehouse opposite, which Phil and Paul have rented for the duration of the build, which is a very sensible idea, so that they can store materials off site and bring them on site when they're required.
So I think it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, every deal, every project, there's a lesson or lessons to be learned. I think for me, one of the lessons I think we made here was possibly the timeline between gaining planning and actually us completing and owning the site. The owner needed to decant his existing operation to a new operation. And I think we could have actually agreed a shorter period, although having that longer period offers advantages, especially if you were trying to sell the site. Our intention has always been to build this one out. So I think we could have reduced that time frame, which would have put us ahead of the game to where we are now. For me, that's probably the lesson I've learned with this particular deal. So the planning process was relatively straightforward. It was one of those ones where we went into with, primarily because we'd just come out of a deal which was, on the face of it, a very simple planning deal, and it took us nearly 2 years to get planning. This one offered or had more challenges, and we thought, this is going to take us a bit longer. But it was actually relatively straightforward. We got the permitted development within the 56 days. We went in to see the planners about a month after that for a pre-app. That went really, really well. That was in July 2018. We actually submitted our planning, I think, first week of September 2018. And we had our planning by, resolution to grant December, full planning with signed section 106 in January 2019. So all in all, a fairly straightforward process, which is unusual. Funding, again, we were fortunate enough to achieve quite a bit of planning gain on this deal. So our funding, especially our senior debt funding, was relatively straightforward, and we had quite a good gap and timeline between exchange and completion to arrange that. So all in all, that was fairly straightforward. And we also arranged some, we did an equity raise just before we started on site with Crowd With Us. And again, that was a straightforward process.
The process that we went through to end up with what we have ended up with was really interesting, because we know Phil and Paul, we know how they work. We had this set of plans that were consented, and really what we did at the start was we absolutely tore them apart. We tore and then put them back together. And the reason that the project has subsequently, in design terms, been quite straightforward is that those initial weeks and up to the first kind of month, we iterated that plan a dozen times. We were trying lots and lots of different ways to try and get the maximum value. And because we did that right at the start, we tore it apart again, put it back together, tore it apart again. After that, the design has, we quite quickly sort of put it back together, and that was it set. And so in terms of the design process, because we had the interior designer involved during that period, the design process has been fairly seamless for us. I think, the complications are on site, and building it are different from the ones as a designer in designing it. So I think, for us, it's been a relatively straightforward process.
We're probably about 6 to 7 weeks behind schedule in terms of the construction, but that was primarily due to, we lost some time in April due to the COVID situation. We also had some delays in August. I think we'll make up some time on that front going forward now. No, but yeah, it's going well. We've managed to keep the team here pretty much throughout the whole duration, getting a number of inquiries now from the hoarding. So yeah, it's all looking very good at the moment. Well, we're going to start marketing in 2021, so we'll start some soft marketing early on in the process. So yes, I think the idea will be to try and secure some off-plan sales and then moving on to a full launch probably round about April, May time, if we can get a show flat ready by then. So our next, well, we're working on a number of, we've got another number of deals we're in the process of negotiating. Our next projects are in South London. We've got a 3-site joint venture deal with a partner over in South London. First of those projects is a site in Norwood, which will comprise of 14 units, but Ackroyd Lowrie are working on that with us as well.
We're working with Phil and Paul on another scheme in Norwood, using a similar process, which is basically to use permitted development. It's a slightly different version of permitted development that they used here. It's the new ZA permitted development, which has been brought in by the government recently, which allows you to knock down and rebuild a commercial building that's been vacant for 6 months up to 1,000 square meters. So we are within that category, which is great. So we're knocking down an old, well, it was originally a stone masons, and then it was a rubber tube factory. And you're able to knock it down and rebuild within the same footprint and a little bit taller. So that design is quite exciting. We're using kind of modern industrial language, and we're getting to work on that for the whole way through the process, rather than just working on that after planning. So that's been really exciting, and I think there's a number of ways in which we're going to be using these new rules, these new permitted development rules, to improve values with our clients.
So I think this is a pretty good example of Qandor members, or a good project for Qandor members actually collaborating. We used Crowd with us, Rob Wilkinson, for the equity raise early on. We're now working with Ackroyd Lowrie on this project, or taking the working drawings forward, and also on other projects. So yeah, I mean, of Qandor members, this has been a good collaboration.
So if you enjoyed this video, why not check out some of our other videos? I recently interviewed lots of fantastic people. There's loads of good content in there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video.